Restaurante. This is a game that is misspelled in several languages, and maybe that was the idea, because everybody gets a sense of what it means, but probably means restaurant, but it also still sounds exotic and mysterious, maybe. So Restaurante is a game that is on Kickstarter right now, or was on Kickstarter, depending on what when you watch this video. But I want to clarify, this video is based on a prototype, so the final components may still change, and this is an unpaid video just because it's based on a Kickstarter prototype. I do these videos because I like the privilege of getting to play some games early on, but I don't accept any payment for these videos, and so, although it's based on a Kickstarter, it is still just a review. I play the game, and then I tell you what I think about it. Now, Restaurante is marketed as a set of components that you can play 3 games with. Now, 2 of these games, yes, is the same game with different rules. So basically, 2 of these 3 games are 2 variants of the same idea, and 1 is a completely different game, and it is also the only game in which you're gonna use these things here. So it makes me think that maybe they came up with this 3rd variant, which is a completely different game, just so they could include something eye-catching for the Kickstarter, because for the other 2 games, all that you need is one of these is used as the first player marker, which of course could have been anything else. So the game in which you use those burgers, I read the rules and I refuse to play it because it's too silly, but I'll tell you what it is. Actually, I'll show you the whole thing. You can pause and read the rules. So basically, it's like a game of All Mate, in which you're passing cards around and forming these sets, and then you throw these burgers at each other. Too silly, I haven't played it. Now, the other 2 games are 2 variants of the same idea of you will be making food, and then you're going to try to sell it and make as much money as possible, and the payouts follow the law of supply and demand. That is, the more of a certain kind of food is sold in a specific turn, the lower the value. The first of the 2 embodiments of this idea is a deck building game in which you will start with a basic deck of cards representing hot dogs, burgers, pizza, and tacos. Shuffle, 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 draw 5 cards, and you have your hand of cards. During the game, you'll also be able to acquire advanced food cards, which represent the same kinds of food, but there are 2 units on each. And when you buy them, you draw them randomly from the deck. And then we have action cards that have different kinds of effects that hopefully are beneficial to you and hurt to the other players. And as you can see, very often they have to do with altering the value of the cost of a certain kind of food. We also have pans that allow you, once you acquire them for quite some money, to draw an extra card each turn. You can also then spend more money to upgrade them, allowing you to draw more cards even. Again, deck building game, we said you have your hand of cards, so you have your hand of cards, hooray. The general idea is that each turn starts with the players drawing cards and adding them to their hand, and there is a hand limit of 7. Suppose this is my hand right now. Once everybody has received their cards, everybody at the same time decides what they're gonna sell this turn, if anything. You can sell up to 2 kinds of food, but just as many units as you want within that kind. So, for example, this would be a legal play. I can choose to sell these 2 and save these ones in my hand, but I could not sell this because these are 3 kinds. And so, suppose that's what I've decided to sell, and everybody again simultaneously decides what else they're gonna sell. And suppose that this is what another friend is selling, and this is what another friend is selling. Once everybody is committed, we reveal our cards, and you can choose to keep secret so that people don't even know how many cards you're selling. Then we look at the player aid, and you have a different one for each number of players, which tells you the value of each kind of food based on how many players are selling it this round. For example, right now there's only one hot dog, so that the basic value sold by only one player with 3 players is $2. And pizza and tacos are worth $1 each because 2 players are selling it. Then, wait, lo and behold, actually this player is doing really well because the basic value of burgers is also $2. I mentioned the basic value because after we reveal the cards, that is when players can play action cards, which you will have acquired in previous turns, which will alter the basic value of that food. For example, right now, burgers, if I play that card, are worth, or pizza is worth 2 extra ones. No one's selling pizza. Why would I play that one? I don't know. I'm just being silly. Burgers are worth 2 more. Or I can tank the value of a specific food. Players reveal their cards and get a sense of the basic value. Then player can play action cards. Once everybody's past playing action cards, we finally receive our money. Money, at least in this prototype, is represented by these cards, which is an interesting, I guess, hybrid between, the much loathed paper money and tokens. Yes, I like this idea. Player receives their money, and then player can spend that money to buy action cards for $1, advance cards for $2 a piece, or their pen, which they must buy in the basic format for $5, and they can also upgrade by spending even more money. That's the idea. The first player to reach a certain amount of money in their bank, in their personal supply, wins the game. And that amount needed to win changes with the number of players. So this is a very simple, very light deck building, but as a deck building filler, I personally enjoyed it. I enjoyed it quite a bit. If nothing else, other than maybe Star Realms, a lot of deck building games can be quite complex and convoluted. Takes a while to set them up, pull the decks up. This one is super simple because you just shuffle those 2 decks, you shuffle your starting deck, and you're pretty much ready to go. So as a deck building filler, I was pretty impressed. I had a good time playing it. My friends also enjoyed it. There was some good thinking going into, trying to read the opponent, see how much they were going to sell of a certain thing, and most importantly, what they were going to sell. Because, a single unit of a thing may tank my price, of which maybe that turn I'm trying to sell a ton, which will make me a killing if no one else is selling it. So very interesting idea here, nice execution. I also enjoy the trade-off, money is victory points. But to make victory points, I need to spend money. And so when do I stop buying good cards and just start saving? If I do that too early, I'm just saving everything. I'm gonna fall behind. If I spend too much, somebody else is gonna win. So you're looking for that nice little balance there. And again, I was pretty impressed by how fun and intuitive this game was based on such a simple idea. Then we have the third version, which is still based on the idea of selling food and supply and demand. So you're still gonna use this player right here. And it's this third variant is a think and write. So yes, it is based on the idea of roll and write, but you don't roll or you don't draw. It's a deterministic write down thing kind of game. And I don't think I've seen that done before. The general idea and the easiest way to explain it is, imagine that each turn we're gonna make one of each of these kind of food, and we're gonna accumulate them and we're gonna sell them. So each turn, your main choice is gonna be if you're gonna sell anything, and if you do, what you're gonna sell. And you can sell up to 2 kinds of food. So suppose that in round 1, I'm not selling anything. There is a line per round. I'm not selling anything. Well, that's it. In round 2, suppose I'm selling burgers. So I make a cross here. I mark this box here. And I also decide that I'm gonna sell hot dogs. When we all reveal what we have selected for sales, that means that I'm selling 2 burgers and 2 hot dogs. Suppose next turn I decide to mark tacos and hot dogs. Now I'm selling 1 hot dog, because remember I just sold 2, and so there's only 1 box here, and I'm selling 3 tacos. So another way of saying it is when you mark it, you're saying a number of units equal to the box you marked plus all the empty boxes going up until you meet the top or you meet another box that you marked, whichever comes first. So everybody thinks and writes what they want to sell, then we reveal that. Then again, we have the option of playing actions, but different from the game where that is cards. Now we simply mark the action and say, okay, I'm increasing the price of burgers by 2. And somebody else goes like, yeah, but I'm decreasing that by 1. And they mark that on their thing. So each of these you can mark during the game. Once we have gone around, now we're gonna start doing the payout. So okay, how many burgers? And you need to do that by category. So first we score burgers because we need to go back and say, okay, how many burgers is everybody selling? And what is the actual price? I played a +2, I played a -1. So now you get the total price. Everybody marks down how much they made from burgers. And then you go around, okay, what is the basic price of hot dogs? And what actions did we play to alter it? Okay, so that's the actual price. How many people? And you score that. So you have to go through that every round. And from this description alone, maybe you already know the sense that I'm not super enthusiastic about the scoring system, which is very similar to this one, but it's a lot more fiddly. It just feels a lot more fiddly. In a round, you may do absolutely nothing. You decide to sell absolutely nothing. And you're sitting there, people are playing actions against each other, and then they go through all the tally. There is an imbalance here, in my opinion, between the time that you spend playing the game and the time that you spend to score it. And while the mind game is also interesting, it just feels a little too cold and too cerebral, especially after playing the other variant in which, well, maybe somebody will play 1 card to change the price of something. Maybe they'll play 2, tops. And so the basic game with the cards is a lot more intuitive, a lot simpler. It flows better. So I think there is a good idea here. If nothing else, I'd never played a think and write game before. But the execution is just not particularly exciting because it just takes too long to score. And somehow the game just feels, I don't know, it's just missing something. So in general, Restaurante. You're gonna have 3 games here. One, which is a dexterity game with very little strategy or no strategy, in which you're throwing burgers at each other. They're cute, but again, gameplay-wise, they are unneeded in the other 2 games. Then you're gonna have what I consider to be a fun and entertaining, like the building game, based on the idea of supply and demand. And then a fairly cold and fiddly think and write game based again on making food and selling according to the law of supply and demand. And this is my assessment of Restaurante.